I paid off the mortgage on our family farm, but my father put my stepbrother's name on the deed. I never wanted the farm for myself. I just didn't want to watch it rot. That land was in our family for 3 generations. My grandfather built the red barn with his own hands. My uncle died baling hay on the south field, and my mom, God rest her, used to say the wind there sounded like her father's whistle. So yeah, I had a soft spot for it. But I didn't expect to be the one who'd keep it alive. I moved back after the divorce. My ex-wife got the house, the car, and whatever was left of my pride. I got an old truck, a single duffel bag, and a phone full of contacts I didn't want to call. So when my dad said I could stay in the back house while I got back on my feet, I took him up on it. I hadn't lived on that land since I was 17, but it felt familiar. Quiet. The kind of quiet that reminds you what pain sounds like. My father wasn't much for talking. He'd grunt when he was proud and curse when he wasn't. After Mom passed, he just got harder. Like his soul had calcified. And he remarried fast. Too fast. Her name was Elaine. She brought a kid into the marriage, Jesse, my stepbrother. Blonde, smug, and 3 years younger. Jesse called my father Dad within 2 months. That should have been the first red flag. The second red flag? My father let Jesse ride the tractor before he let me. But I didn't come back to stir up old wounds. I worked. Fixed the busted fencing. Cleared out the raccoons from the attic. Repaired the roof after the spring hail nearly ripped it off. Then came the real problem, the mortgage. Turns out, my father had taken out a second loan against the property. Elaine wanted a new kitchen, Jesse needed a truck, and the barn repairs weren't cheap, he said. The bank was breathing down his neck. He didn't ask me for help. He just let it slip over coffee, like he was talking about the weather. They'll take it if I miss another payment. I didn't even blink. I just said, I'll cover it. He didn't argue, didn't even thank me, just nodded like he'd been expecting it all along. I drained what was left of my savings. Picked up double shifts hauling lumber for a contractor in town. I even took out a personal loan under my name. And by December, I'd paid off the entire thing. Every last cent. The day I made the final payment, I stood on that porch with my coffee, watching the sun rise over the frozen fields, and I let myself feel proud. Just for a second. Then, in January, I found the deed. I wasn't snooping. I was grabbing papers from Dad's filing cabinet, looking for a tax form. But there it was, crisp, notarized, and dated December 23rd. The property deed. Transferred to Jesse, sole owner. I stood there, holding the paper like it was on fire. My name wasn't even on it. Not a mention. Not even as co-owner. I waited until dinner to confront him. Elaine made roast beef. Jesse was scrolling on his phone, using the good fork like it was his God-given right. I slid the deed across the table. Dad didn't flinch. Just looked at it, then at me. What's this? I asked. What it looks like. I paid off the mortgage. And Jesse's the future. You're not staying. I laughed. Actually laughed. So I'm a donor now? Just keeping the land warm for the real sun? Elaine cut in. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? I snapped. I'm the only reason this place isn't a foreclosure listing. Jesse finally looked up. You always were a martyr. I stood. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. You're going to fix this. You're going to put my name on that deed. My father stared at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Cold. Final. No, son. I'm not. And that was the moment I realized. I wasn't his son anymore. Not really. Just a man who paid the bill and overstayed his welcome. I left that night, packed my truck and drove off with snow kicking up behind me. But I wasn't done. Not even close. He put another man's name on my inheritance and called it love. There's a kind of silence that follows betrayal. Not like peace, but more like the moment right after a crash, when your ears are ringing and the world hasn't decided whether to fall apart or keep spinning. That's the motel I ended up in. A blinking vacancy sign, cracked linoleum floors, walls so thin I could hear the couple in 2B argue about pizza toppings for an hour. And still, it was quieter than the farm. I hadn't packed right. One duffel, half full. No razor. My boots still caked in mud from the barn I saved and got cut out of. I sat on the edge of that motel bed, hands in my lap like I was waiting for someone to tell me what came next. But nobody came. Just me and the echo of my own stupidity. I should have known. The signs weren't subtle. Jesse driving my dad's truck like he owned it. Elaine decorating the kitchen like she was prepping for a photo shoot. The way Dad introduced Jesse as my boy at the hardware store. Still, I thought paying off that mortgage might mean something. I thought wrong. I called Katie. She picked up on the second ring. He gave it to Jesse. She didn't say anything at first. I could hear her breathing. Then, I'll find you a lawyer. I don't know how she knew I wasn't calling for sympathy. Maybe she just remembered what Dad sounds like when he closes a door and means it. The lawyer's name was Tom Ellis. Downtown office. Real estate and probate law. Balding, sharp-eyed. No time for hand-holding. I brought every document I had. Bank statements, loan paperwork, copies of every payment I made on Dad's behalf. Tom leafed through them without comment. Then he looked at the deed. So, he said, you paid it off, and now the land's in Jesse's name. Correct. Was there ever a written agreement? No, but he acknowledged it in texts. Said he'd pay me back. Called me the reason the farm was still standing. Tom nodded slowly, tapping a pen against the folder. You've got leverage. But no slam dunk. Family courts hate getting involved in what they call domestic finance. Especially without signatures. So what do? He shrugged. We can file a civil claim. Financial misrepresentation, possibly constructive trust. Demand that ownership be corrected or compensation be paid. But once we move, it's war. He declared war first, I said. Katie fronted the retainer. I didn't ask where she got the cash. I just told her thank you, and she said, burn the whole thing down if you have to. That stuck with me. We sent the letter 2 weeks later. Certified mail. Formal, cold, bullet-pointed. Demand for equitable correction of title based on financial contribution and implied intent. Jesse didn't respond. Not officially, but he left a voicemail. Hey man, he said. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but it's pathetic. You left. You gave up any claim. You're not coming back. And if you think you can bully me out of what's mine, you're gonna regret it. He ended with a chuckle. Like it was funny. Like he hadn't been handed something I bled for. I played the message twice. Then I called Tom and said 6 words I never thought I'd say about my own blood. Take the gloves off. No mercy. He's not just selling the land. He's burning down everything that made us family. I don't remember pulling over. 1 minute I was driving, Tom's voice echoing in my head. Subdivide. Loan. 200 grand. And the next, I was parked on the side of the road, hands locked around the steering wheel like they were praying. I don't pray anymore. But I remember what my mother used to say when she saw a man like Jesse. Some folks borrow your shovel to bury you with it. He was doing worse. The south field, where she used to hang laundry on windy days, was getting surveyed for construction. Jesse filed permits with the county a week before my letter even landed. This was never about keeping the farm alive. He wanted to erase it. The same way my father erased me. I drove straight to Katie's. Didn't call. Didn't ask. Just showed up. She opened the door, saw my face, and said, how bad? Worse. She didn't speak. Just stepped aside and let me in. We sat on her porch with coffee in silence. Her girlfriend, Mel, brought out a blanket and didn't ask questions. That's how I knew she was a keeper. Finally, I said, he's selling it off. All of it. Farmhouse, barn, fields. He took out a loan before the ink was dry on the deed. Katie stared into her mug. He's not just greedy. He's gutting us. Exactly. She nodded, slowly. Then we don't just fight. We expose him. That night, I started digging. Emails. Old tax returns. Photos of every repair I'd done. The busted roof I patched. The receipts for lumber. Even the texts my dad sent when he begged for help without asking. I wasn't just building a case. I was building a story. Because courts like paperwork, but people like truth. And if Jesse wanted to play dirty, I'd remind him who taught me to get my hands filthy. Tom filed for an injunction, a legal freeze to stop the sale. It bought us a little time, not much. Jesse filed a countersuit so fast it looked rehearsed. Then he went on Facebook. Posted a photo of himself in front of the barn. Caption, rebuilding legacy with love. Can't wait to raise my kids where I was raised. He never lived there. Not one day. I showed the post to Katie. She said, he's campaigning. You need to as well. So I started writing. A public letter. Open, raw, unfiltered. I posted it on the local town board. Told them what happened. What I paid. What I lost. I ended it with a photo. My mom standing in the south field. Arms spread like she could hug the whole sky. The post went viral. Neighbors I hadn't seen in years started sharing it. One woman, Mrs. Lockwood, used to bake pies for the 4th of July picnic, wrote, I remember that boy fixing the fence in the rain. He's the reason that place still stands. I didn't cry, but I shook. Jesse called that night. First time since the voicemail. You're making a fool of yourself, he said. You think you can guilt the county into handing it over? Grow up, man. No, I said. You grow something. Anything. Plant one thing on that land. Then maybe we'll talk. He hung up, but I knew I'd hit a nerve. The court date was set. 2 months out. Enough time to gather more. Enough time to turn the town against the golden boy in designer boots. Because if blood didn't mean anything to them, maybe truth would. He paraded around town like a hero, while I sat on the evidence that could bury him. The diner still smelled like burnt bacon and dish soap. Friday morning rush. The regulars were tucked into their booths, sipping coffee and trading gossip. I kept my hat low, pretending to read the paper. Then Jesse walked in like he owned the damn place. Flannel shirt, spotless boots, shaking hands with the same men who used to call me champ when I mowed their lawns at 14. He didn't even glance my way. Not at first, but I saw the flicker when he did. He walked over, all charm and condescension. You really think a couple sob stories online changes anything? I didn't look up, just turned a page. You want to sit, Jesse? Or you just here to pose? He leaned down, voice tight. You're embarrassing yourself. No, you're just not used to seeing me fight back. He straightened, smiled, all teeth. Dad made his choice. You left. That's on you. Yeah, I said. And I came back to pay your debts. And now you're selling my mother's land to fund your big boy fantasy. That's on you. For a second, he flinched. Just a flicker. Then he walked out without another word. But I wasn't done. Because what Jesse didn't know was that Ray Wallace, my dad's oldest friend, a man who once helped us rebuild the shed after a tornado, had called me the night before. Said he wanted to talk. I showed up with a notepad and a recorder. Ray poured sweet tea and cleared his throat like he was about to confess to something biblical. Your daddy. He wasn't always fair, he started. No kidding. Ray rubbed his temples. Back in 2003, when we nearly lost the South crop, that was you who caught it. The fungus. But your dad told the co-op it was Jesse. Even back then, he was shifting the light. Jesse was 12. Didn't matter. Made him look like a prodigy. Your dad liked the idea of a son he could shape. And me? Ray looked at me. You were already your own man. That scared him. I nodded. Didn't trust my voice. Can I put this on record? I asked. Ray hesitated, then said, if it helps you take back what's yours, yeah? I'm tired of pretending. That night, I added Ray's statement to the file. Tom said it wouldn't win the case on its own, but it painted a picture. A long con. A father rewriting history. A golden boy inheriting a lie. Katie called while I was organizing the files. You okay? I think I'm finally angry enough, I said. She laughed. Then you're just getting started. He thought the past was buried, but I brought a shovel. 2 weeks until court. Tom said it like a warning, like a countdown to either justice or collapse. Every morning, I checked the calendar like a man checking for a storm. Because that's what this felt like. A storm rolling in. Fast, heavy, and mean. Jesse was still posting. Selfies with the dog he never fed. Cropped shots of the field he hadn't worked a day in. Captions like, legacy matters. Comments filled with emojis and old classmates saying things like, so proud of you, and your dad would be smiling down. Would he? The same man who used to tell me a handshake was more sacred than a signature, and then gave away my mother's land without either. I kept digging. Not metaphorically. I mean, I drove out to the edge of the south field, climbed over the rusted fence, and found the spot where Mom buried our old dog, Gracie. It wasn't marked, but I remembered. She made me promise never to forget. I knelt there for an hour. No plan. No words. Just dirt under my fingernails and grief in my chest like a second heart. That night, I posted again. Not anger this time. Not accusation. Just a memory. This is where my mom buried our dog. She said land remembers what people forget. Jesse wants to pave it over. But I remember. I always will. It spread like fire in dry wind. Even the town council noticed. Someone, I never found out who, forwarded the post to the zoning board. They issued a hold. Temporary, but enough to stall Jesse's plans until the court date. The next day, I found a dead rabbit nailed to my truck. No note. No witnesses. Just silence and blood. Katie drove over that night. Barely said a word. Just walked into my room, saw the photo I'd taken of the rabbit, and sat down hard. You need to be careful, she whispered. I am. No, I mean it. He's scared now, and scared men lash out. I nodded, but I didn't stop, because fear meant pressure, and pressure meant cracks. Tom called 2 days later. We got a break. You remember that contractor Jesse used last summer? The one for the driveway extension? Yeah, been something. He reached out. Says Jesse bounced a check. Says he's got emails showing Jesse forged a second set of cost estimates to inflate the loan. Fraud. Potentially. My throat dried. Will he testify? If we keep his name out of it, until trial. Done. I hung up and just stared at the ceiling. Because this wasn't just a family feud anymore. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a pattern. And the man my father gave the farm to wasn't just undeserving. He was criminal. I called Katie. Told her everything. She exhaled like she'd been holding it for weeks. Good, she said. Now we show the judge what the rest of us already knew. I leaned back, the weight of every memory pressing down on me. He thought he could bury me, but I still remembered where every body was buried. He inherited the land, but I inherited every truth he tried to bury. The night before the hearing, I didn't sleep. I laid in the motel bed staring at the water-stained ceiling, listening to the heater click and wheeze like it was trying to breathe through regret. Outside, the wind howled through the parking lot like it knew something was about to shift. Katie stayed in the room next door. She offered to bunk with me, but I needed the quiet. I needed to feel the weight of what tomorrow meant. It wasn't just land. It never was. It was the echo of my mother's laughter in the fields. The dent in the porch rail where I hit it with a baseball bat the day she died. It was every hour I'd worked to keep that house from collapsing in on itself. And Jesse, he saw a plot of dirt and a line of credit. At 7 a.m., we walked into the courthouse. Small building, big ghosts. Tom met us at the entrance, dressed in a wrinkled gray suit and a look that said he hadn't slept either. You ready? He asked. I nodded. More than he is. The judge was a woman named Harris. Middle-aged, sharp eyes, no nonsense. She glanced at the paperwork like it was kindling, then looked straight at me. Mr. Greer, you're the plaintiff. You have the floor. Tom stood. Your Honor, we're here today not just because of a signature or a deed. We're here because my client paid off a mortgage under good faith that he'd be treated as a rightful stakeholder in his family's property. What followed was deception, financial exploitation, and emotional abuse. He handed her the receipts, the letters, the screenshots, even the voicemail from Jesse, the one where he threatened me. Jesse's lawyer objected, said it was contextually inflammatory. The judge overruled him. Then it was Jesse's turn. He took the stand with his usual smirk. Hair gelled, tie askew like he wanted to look respectable without trying too hard. Did your father ever promise the farm to your brother? The lawyer asked. Not to my knowledge. Did your brother make any payments on your behalf? No. He gave money to Dad. That's between them. Were you aware of his financial contributions when the deed was transferred to you? I mean, kinda, but it wasn't formal. Tom stood. Mr. Greer, did you file a loan request with First Regional Bank last fall? Jesse shifted. Yeah. Did you use fabricated cost estimates to inflate that loan? Objection. Judge, overruled. Answer the question. Jesse, I used what the contractor gave me. Tom handed the judge an affidavit from the contractor, Ben. It detailed the forged documents. Signed. Notarized. The courtroom didn't gasp. It just got quiet. That kind of silence, it's heavier than a scream. By the time we broke for lunch, Jesse wouldn't look at me. Katie passed me a sandwich and a smile. One more crack, she said, and it all collapses. Afternoon brought the witnesses. Ray took the stand. Spoke slow, every word careful. He talked about the work I did, the credit I never got, the lies my father let live. The judge watched him like he was reading scripture. Then came the zoning board rep. She confirmed Jesse's development application and the temporary hold placed after my public letter. Would this project displace any existing grave sites? Tom asked. She nodded. Yes. According to our research, one animal burial and one informal family plot near the south edge. I felt my hands clench. Jesse looked stunned. He didn't even know, because he never asked. Final statements were brief. Jesse's lawyer tried to spin it as a family misunderstanding. Tom didn't even stand. Just said, legacies aren't built on theft. Judge Harris called for recess. Said she'd return in the morning with a decision. Outside the courthouse, Jesse tried to catch my eye. I didn't give him that. Instead, I looked up at the sky, gray, flat, and waiting. Because the storm wasn't over yet. But it had finally found its target. He tried to break me in court, but the judge broke him instead. The morning of the verdict, the courthouse felt like a church. Quiet. Heavy. Like everyone knew something sacred was about to happen or be shattered. Katie and I didn't talk on the drive over. She just rested her hand on my shoulder for a second before we got out. I think she knew I needed that more than words. Tom was already there, his tie straighter than usual, his face unreadable. "You good?" he asked. "Ready." We sat. Jesse came in 5 minutes later, alone. No lawyer. No Elaine. Just him, checking his phone, trying not to look like a man already sentenced. Judge Harris entered, robe billowing like a storm cloud. She didn't waste time. "I've reviewed the materials, testimony, and arguments. This case is about ownership, not just of property, but of history, of responsibility, of truth." She looked directly at Jesse. "Mr. Greer, it is my determination that the transfer of deed was made under materially deceptive circumstances, and that the plaintiff's financial contributions entitle him to significant equitable relief." She turned to me. "Mr. Greer, you will be reinstated as co-owner of the Greer property. Furthermore, all zoning applications are hereby suspended pending joint approval." I didn't breathe. "Lastly," she added, "this court advises that the matter of loan fraud is under review by county authorities." That's when Jesse flinched. The bailiff called recess. Tom clapped me on the back. Katie squeezed my hand, and I stood. I walked past Jesse, who still couldn't meet my eyes, and didn't say a word. Because winning doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it just looks like silence where anger used to live. We walked outside. There were people waiting, neighbors, reporters, even old Mr. Lockwood with his cane and camera phone. I gave a short statement. This wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. My mother planted roots in that soil. My father tried to cut me out, but the truth had deeper roots. A few clapped. Most just nodded. Katie drove us home. Not to the motel. Home. I stood on the porch of the farmhouse that evening, the wind tugging at my sleeves. The barn creaked like it was clearing its throat. Somewhere a hawk called. I thought about what comes next. Not revenge. Not repair. Just rebuilding. Because the truth wasn't just spoken in court. It was written, finally, on paper. And this time, my name was on it. The land remembered me, even when my family tried to forget. The week after the verdict, everything felt still. Not quiet. Not peaceful. Just still. Like the land itself was holding its breath. I stayed at the farmhouse. Alone at first. The air inside smelled like old wood and dust, and maybe a bit of redemption. I patched the porch railing. Repaired the back screen door. Sat in the living room with the light off, letting memory fill the silence. Katie stopped by one evening with a casserole and her usual brand of no bullshit wisdom. "You gonna haunt this place or live in it?" I smirked, still deciding. She set the dish down, leaned on the counter. "You won. You bled for this. Time to make it yours." That night, I found an old photo album under the floorboards. One I hadn't seen in years. Pictures of Mom in the garden. Dad before the bitterness. Me, shirtless and sunburnt, holding a hammer like it was a sword. And one photo I didn't recognize. It was of Jesse, standing awkwardly near the barn, maybe 10 years old. Dad's hand on his shoulder. Both of them smiling like it meant something. I stared at it for a long time. Grief is funny. It doesn't just come for the things you lost. Sometimes it comes for the things you never had. I didn't hate Jesse. Not really. I hated what he represented, a choice my father made, over and over again, to pretend I didn't exist. But Jesse was a symptom, not the disease. A few days later, I drove into town and filed new papers. Transferred 25% of the deed into a conservation trust. The south field, the barn, the grave under the maple tree, protected now. No development. No sale. Ever. Katie raised an eyebrow when I told her. Not exactly profitable. Not about profit. What's it about then? Roots. A month later, I opened the farmhouse for a town potluck. Neighbors came. Old faces. New ones. Even Ray brought his famous lemon pie. No sign of Jesse. But I didn't expect him. Maybe one day. Maybe not. Late that night, I stood on the porch alone, paper plate in hand, listening to the laughter echo across the yard. The stars were out. The barn stood tall. And for the first time in a long, long time, the land felt like it belonged. Not to a name. Not to a signature. But to a story. and I was finally ready to live it.